3 weeks passed after the ship left. The world held its breath. News channels played the same footage over and over. The dark ship above Geneva, the blue light, Han Do-hyun walking back out alone. Experts argued on television. Governments held emergency meetings behind closed doors. Some people believed it was over. Some people knew better. Yoon Jia was one of those people. She sat in a deep underground room beneath the mountains outside of Daejeon, South Korea. The room was cold, lit by blue screens, and filled with the low hum of machines that never slept. She was 39 years old, with sharp eyes and short black hair that she kept tied back with a simple band. She wore a dark navy uniform with no medals. She did not care about medals, she cared about being ready. Jia was the captain of the Earth Orbital Defense Command, a program that, until 3 weeks ago, only 47 people on the planet knew existed. It had been built in secret over the past 12 years, funded by a quiet agreement between 9 nations. Its official name was Protocol Jeomun, named after the ancient Korean warship. Its purpose was simple: protect the planet from anything that came from above. No one had ever expected it to be needed this soon. The system was not what most people imagined when they thought of space defense. There were no giant laser cannons or floating battleships. Instead, there were thousands of small satellites, each one no bigger than a washing machine, spread across Earth's orbit in a careful pattern. They looked like space junk. They were designed to look like space junk. But inside each one was a weapon that could cut through steel from 200 kilometers away. Jia had helped design the network herself. She had spent 6 years running simulations, testing angles, calculating firing patterns. She knew every satellite by number. She knew their positions the way a musician knows the strings of her instrument. And right now, every one of those satellites was awake. "Report," she said, her voice flat and steady. A young officer named Park Taemin looked up from his screen. He was 26, thin and nervous. This was his first real assignment. "All sectors quiet, Captain. No movement on the outer perimeter. The tracking stations in Alaska, Norway, and Australia confirm. Nothing incoming." Jia nodded, but did not relax. She had read Do-hyun's report. She had watched his face on the recording, the calm way he had spoken to the alien ambassador. She had noticed what others missed, the way his jaw tightened for just a second when he described Vrel's question. Do-hyun was not a man who got scared easily, but something about that encounter had unsettled him. And if Do-hyun was unsettled, Jia was on full alert. She was right to be. It happened on a Thursday evening, just as the sun was setting over the Pacific Ocean. The first sign was a flicker, a tiny change in the data coming from a deep space tracking station in Chile. One of the analysts noticed it and flagged it. Then another station in Japan picked up the same thing. Then another in South Africa. Within 4 minutes, every tracking station on Earth was screaming the same message. Something was coming. Something big. And it was coming fast. Jia was on her feet before the alarm finished sounding. She crossed the room in 3 steps and leaned over Taemin's shoulder. The screen showed a cluster of objects entering the solar system at a speed that should not have been possible. They were decelerating, slowing down as they approached Earth. But even slowing down, they were moving faster than anything humans had ever built. "How many?" Jia asked. Taemin's fingers moved across the keyboard. His face had gone white. 32 confirmed contacts. No, wait, 41. They keep appearing. They're dropping out of some kind of faster-than-light travel in waves. Formation? Spread wide. Attack pattern. They're not trying to hide. Jia straightened up. She felt her heart beating fast, but her face showed nothing. She had trained for this moment for 12 years. She had dreamed about it. She had feared it. And now, it was here. She picked up the red phone on her desk and pressed a single button. The line connected instantly. "This is Captain Yoon Jia, Earth Orbital Defense Command," she said. We have confirmed hostile approach. 41 contacts. Arrival in approximately 97 minutes. I am requesting full activation of Protocol Geomon. There was a pause on the other end. Then a voice. The voice of the United Earth Council's military commander said, "Confirmed. Protocol Geomon is active. Captain Yoon, you have command." She hung up the phone. Around her, the room had transformed. Officers were moving quickly, but quietly, each one going to their assigned station. Screens lit up with targeting data. Numbers scrolled across displays. The satellites in orbit began to shift, moving from their scattered sleeping positions into a tight, calculated pattern. Gia sat down in her chair and put on her headset. "All stations, this is Geomon Actual," she said. "We are now at Defense Condition 1. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Lock all grids, charge all arrays, hold fire until my command." Across the world, in hidden rooms just like hers, officers responded. Alaska confirmed. Norway confirmed. Japan confirmed. Australia confirmed. One by one, the global network came alive. The minutes passed slowly. On the screens, the alien fleet grew closer. The ships were different from the one that had visited Geneva. These were not diplomatic vessels. They were blocky, rough, and covered in what looked like thick armor plating. They moved in a tight V formation, with the largest ship at the center. A massive thing, easily a kilometer long, bristling with structures that could only be weapons. Gia studied them carefully. She noticed something. The fleet was heading directly for the Korean peninsula. "They're targeting Seoul," Taemin said, his voice barely above a whisper. Gia felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. Seoul. 12 million people. The heart of the nation. The seat of the United Earth Council's Asian headquarters. Of course they would target Seoul. It was a message aimed directly at the man who had refused to answer their question. "Pull up the civilian evacuation status," she ordered. "Evacuation is underway," another officer reported. "But at this speed, Captain, there's no way to get everyone out in time." Gia closed her eyes for 1 second, just one. Then she opened them and made her decision. "We don't evacuate," she said. "We stop them before they get close enough to matter." She pulled up the targeting system on her personal screen. Her fingers moved fast, assigning satellites to targets, calculating angles, setting firing sequences. Each satellite could fire once before it needed to recharge. She had to make every shot count. "Geomoon grid is at full power," Taemin reported. "All arrays charged and locked. Time to range? 14 minutes. Gia leaned back in her chair. She looked around the room at her team. Young men and women who had trained in secret, who had never told their families what they really did, who had spent years preparing for a night they hoped would never come. "Listen to me," she said, and her voice carried across the quiet room. "What happens in the next few minutes will decide the future of every person on this planet. We built this system so that when this moment came, we would be ready. And we are ready. Do your jobs, trust your training, and trust me." No one spoke, but she saw their backs straighten. She saw their hands steady on their controls. The alien fleet crossed the moon's orbit. Then it passed the outer satellite ring. The ships were glowing now, their weapons powering up, bright points of orange light appearing along their hulls like opening eyes. "They're charging weapons," Taemin said. "Targeting locks detected. They're aiming at the surface. At Seoul." Gia watched the numbers on her screen. Distance closing. Angle narrowing. The fleet was entering the kill zone, the precise area of space where every Geomoon satellite could reach them at once. She waited. "Captain, they're almost in firing range of the surface." She waited. "Captain, hold," she said. The fleet crossed the last line. Every ship was now inside the zone. There was no escape angle, no blind spot. Every single one of them was covered by at least 12 satellites. Gia pressed the button on her console. "All stations, fire." The sky above Earth lit up. From orbit, It looked like the planet itself was fighting back. Thousands of thin beams of white light shot upward from every direction, crossing and overlapping, forming a web of destruction so dense that nothing could pass through it. The beams hit the alien ships with perfect accuracy. They cut through armor like sunlight through paper. They sliced engines apart, split hulls open, and turned weapons into twisted metal. The first ship exploded in a ball of silent fire. Then the second. Then the third. The fleet had no time to react. They had not expected resistance. Not at this level, not this fast. Their shields, designed to stop plasma and energy bolts from civilizations they had conquered before, were useless against the focused, precise beams of the Geomon grid. In 11 seconds, it was over. 41 ships, 41 explosions, 41 clouds of burning metal, spreading outward in the silence of space like flowers made of fire and ruin. The screens in the command room went quiet. The alarms stopped. The only sound was the soft hum of the machines and the breathing of the people inside. Taman stared at his screen. His hands were shaking. "All contacts destroyed," he said. "No survivors, no escape pods detected." Gia sat still in her chair for a long moment. Then she removed her headset and set it on the desk. "Begin satellite recharge," she said quietly, "and get me a line to the United Earth Council. We need to talk about what comes next." She stood up and walked to the window, a small, narrow window cut into the mountain rock that showed a sliver of the night sky. The stars were bright and cold. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was about to receive some very bad news. And Captain Yoon Ja, who had never fired a weapon in anger in her entire life, had just won the first battle in a war that the rest of the galaxy did not yet understand. The wreckage of the alien fleet was still burning in orbit when the argument started. In a secure conference room deep beneath the United Earth Council headquarters in Seoul, 12 people sat around a long table. They were the leaders of the world's most powerful nations, presidents, prime ministers, generals, and advisors. Their faces were pale. Their voices were loud. Some wanted to celebrate. Some wanted to hide, and some wanted to hit back. Han Do-hyun sat at the far end of the table, quiet as always, watching them argue. "They will send more," said the American general, a large man with a red face and heavy hands. "That was a test fleet, a scouting force. The real attack is coming, and it will be 10 times bigger." "Then we prepare our defenses," said the European delegate, a thin woman with silver hair. "Captain Yoon's system worked. We strengthen it. We build more satellites. We wait." "Wait for what?" The Chinese representative shook his head. "Wait for them to figure out how to beat our grid? Wait for them to bring a fleet so large we can't stop it? No. We must strike first. Hit them before they can regroup." A room erupted. Voices clashed. Fists hit the table. Fear had turned to anger, and anger was looking for a direction. Do-hyun cleared his throat. It was not a loud sound, but somehow it cut through the noise like a knife through water. One by one, the voices stopped. 12 pairs of eyes turned to him. "I met them," Do-hyun said simply. "I stood in their ship, I looked into their eyes. And I can tell you one thing with certainty. They did not expect what happened tonight. They are confused right now. They are afraid. And fear, in any species, leads to one of two things: retreat or escalation." He paused. "If we do nothing, they will escalate. They will come back with a force we cannot stop. But if we act now, if we show them that we are not just capable of defense, but of reaching them where they live, they will have to reconsider everything they think they know about us." The room was silent. "Are you suggesting," the British Prime Minister said slowly, "that we attack the Galactic Council directly?" "I am suggesting Do-hyun said, "that we knock on their door loudly." The vote was close, 7-5, but it passed. The mission was given to Lieutenant Bae Suho. Suho was 33 years old, born in Incheon, raised by a father who fixed boats and a mother who taught mathematics. He had joined the military at 19, not because he loved fighting, but because he was very good at it. He was quiet, focused, and had a strange talent for staying calm in situations that made other people scream. His commanding officers said he had ice in his veins. His friends said he was just too stubborn to panic. He was given 12 hours to prepare. The plan was based on something most of the world still did not know about. A technology that had been developed in secret over the past 5 years, built from data gathered by deep space probes, and more recently, from the wreckage of the alien fleet that now floated above Earth. Human scientists had studied the alien engines and found something remarkable. The faster-than-light technology was not as complicated as everyone had assumed. It was based on a principle that human physicists had theorized about for decades, but never tested. Within 3 years of finding the first alien probe, they had built a working prototype. It was called the Gate, and it could move a ship across the galaxy in the time it took to blink. The problem was power. Each jump required an enormous amount of energy. The Earth could generate enough for one jump, one way. Getting back would require either building a second gate at the destination or finding another source of power. Suho did not care about getting back. Not yet. He cared about getting there. His strike force was small, 6 ships, each one fast and heavily armed. The crews were all volunteers. Every single one of them knew the risks. Every single one of them had stepped forward anyway. Among them was Ko Nari. Nari was 31, a scientist, not a soldier. She had short hair, round glasses, and a habit of talking too fast when she was excited. She had been part of the team that reverse-engineered the alien faster-than-light drive. She understood the technology better than anyone alive, and she had insisted, loudly, repeatedly, and with great stubbornness, on being part of the mission. "You need someone who understands their systems," she had told Suho during the briefing. "When we get there, their technology will be everywhere. Their communications, their networks, their defenses. You'll need me to read it." Suho had looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Stay close to me," he said, "and if I tell you to run, you run." "I don't run," she said. "Then we'll get along fine." The gate was activated at exactly 0300 hours, Korea Standard Time. The 6 ships lined up in formation in high orbit above Earth. Below them, the planet was dark and quiet, most of its people asleep, unaware of what was about to happen. Suho sat in the command chair of the lead ship. He looked at the screen in front of him, which showed the gate coordinates, a point in space on the edge of the Galactic Council's home system, calculated from data found in the alien fleet's navigation computers. He pressed the comm button. "All ships, this is Lieutenant Bae. In 30 seconds, we jump. When we arrive, stay tight, follow my lead, and remember why we're here. We're not there to destroy them. We're there to send a message." He released the button, took a breath, looked at the stars. Jump. The universe folded. There was no sound, no flash of light. One moment they were above Earth. The next, they were somewhere else entirely. The stars were different. The sky was different. And directly ahead of them, filling the entire forward screen, was a planet. It was enormous, 3 times the size of Earth, and covered in lights. Not the scattered glow of human cities, but a solid, unbroken carpet of light that covered every surface. Millions of structures rose from its surface, reaching up into the atmosphere like metal trees. Ships moved around it in thick, constant streams, like blood flowing through veins. It was alive. It was magnificent, and it was completely undefended. For a moment, just a moment, he felt the weight of what he was looking at. This was the heart of a civilization that ruled 1,000 star systems. A civilization that had existed for longer than humanity had walked upright. And he was here, in a ship built on a small blue planet, with 5 other ships and a scientist who talked too fast. "They don't have shields up," Nari said from her station. Her voice was breathless. "No defense grid active. No military ships in orbit. They didn't think anyone would come here." "Good," Suho said. "Open a channel. All frequencies. Every language their systems can broadcast in." Nari's fingers moved across her console. She had already connected to the alien communication network. It had taken her less than 2 minutes. The alien systems were advanced, but they were not designed to keep anyone out. No one had ever tried to break in before. "You're broadcasting to the entire system." Suho shook his head. "Not me. You." Nari looked up at him. "What? You wanted to come. You said you could help, so help. Tell them who we are. Tell them why we're here." Nari swallowed. She adjusted her glasses. Then she leaned forward toward the microphone. Her voice went out across the stars, translated instantly by the alien systems into 100 languages, heard on 1,000 ships, in 1,000,000 buildings, by billions of ears and sensors across the Council's homeworld. "This is Ko-Nari of the planet Earth," she said. 3 weeks ago, you sent an ambassador to our world. He asked us what we were willing to sacrifice. Last night, you sent a fleet to destroy our largest city. 12 million people were in its path. Mothers, children, old people who had done nothing to you." She paused. The silence across the alien frequencies was absolute. "Your fleet is gone," she continued. "Every weapon. It took us 11 seconds. And now we are here, in the heart of your system, in orbit above your capital world. We came through your space without being detected. We sit above your planet without being challenged. Think about what that means." She looked at Suho. He nodded. "You asked what we would sacrifice to survive," Nari said, and now her voice was harder, sharper, like a blade being drawn. "Here is your answer. Nothing. We do not sacrifice. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. We adapt. We build. We fight. And we come for those who threaten us, no matter how far away they are." She leaned closer to the microphone. "You have one chance," she said quietly. "One chance to make this right. Send your council to speak with us. Not to judge us, not to evaluate us, but to talk, as equals. If you refuse, we will leave. And the next time we come back, we will not come to talk." She cut the channel. Suho looked at her with something that might have been respect. "I thought you were a scientist," he said. "I am," she replied, adjusting her glasses again. "But I'm also very, very angry." On the planet below, chaos had erupted. Ships were scrambling. Communications were flooding with panicked voices. The great council chambers, which had stood in calm authority for 10,000 years, were filled with the sound of arguments and fear. No one had ever come to their doorstep. No one had ever dared. And now, 6 small ships from a tiny blue planet hung in their sky like 6 quiet promises that the universe had just changed forever. Suho watched the planet for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. "Hold position," he said. "Let them think." And they waited, patient and still, while a galaxy learned what it felt like to be afraid of something small. The Galactic Council did not respond for 6 hours. During those 6 hours, Suho's small fleet held its position in orbit above the Council's homeworld. They did not fire. They did not move. They just floated there, 6 tiny ships against the glow of a planet covered in light, and waited. Inside the ships, the crews watched their screens and tried not to think about the fact that they were the most isolated humans in history. Earth was on the other side of the galaxy. The gate had used all its power. There was no quick way home. If the Council decided to destroy them, there would be no rescue, no retreat, no second chance. But the Council did not attack. Nari monitored the alien communications from her station. She could hear them, thousands of conversations happening at once across the planet below. The translators struggled with some of the languages, but the tone was clear. Fear, confusion, disbelief. The Council had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had conquered or absorbed every species they had ever met. They had built a system so vast and so powerful that the idea of being threatened had become almost imaginary to them. And now 6 ships from an unknown planet sat above their capital, and they did not know what to do. Finally, the response came. It was not Vrel who spoke. It was a different voice, older, deeper, with a weariness that even the translator could not hide. "We are the High Circle of the Galactic Council," the voice said. "We agree to speak. Send your representative to the following coordinates." Nari relayed the message to Suho. He studied the coordinates. They pointed to a structure on the planet's surface, a massive building near the center of the largest city, surrounded by what appeared to be gardens and open space. "It could be a trap," Suho said. "Everything could be a trap, but they sound scared. Scared people make deals. Angry people make traps." Suho considered this. Then he opened a channel to Earth. The signal would take time. It had to bounce through a series of relay points they had dropped during the jump, but it reached Seoul within 20 minutes. The person who answered was Commander Shin Yuna. Yuna was 42 years old, born in Gwangju, raised in a military family. Her father had been a general. Her mother had been a general. Her older brother was a pilot who had died in a training accident when she was 16. She had joined the military the day after his funeral and had never looked back. She was not soft. She was not warm. She spoke in short, precise sentences, and she had a way of looking at people that made them feel like she was reading the inside of their skull. She had been placed in charge of the overall operation, the defense of Earth, the coordination with Suho's strike force, and now, the negotiation. "They agreed to talk," Suho reported. "They want a representative on the surface." "Don't send anyone down," Yuna said. "Make them come to you." "Commander, they specifically asked." "I heard what they asked, and I'm telling you, we do not go to them. They come to us. They asked for this meeting because they're afraid. If we go down to their surface, into their building, surrounded by their guards, we give away the one thing we have right now, the high ground. So they come up, to our ship, on our terms." Suho paused. Then he smiled, a rare thing for him. "Understood, Commander." He sent the message. There was another long silence. Then, to the surprise of almost everyone, the Council agreed. A single shuttle rose from the planet's surface and docked with Suho's ship. Out of it stepped 3 members of the High Circle, tall, ancient-looking creatures with shells that had faded to pale gray, their 4 eyes cloudy and slow. They moved carefully, as if the artificial gravity of the human ship was slightly wrong for their bodies. Behind them came Vrel, the ambassador who had visited Earth, looking smaller than Suho had expected. Suho met them at the airlock. He was wearing his combat uniform, not a dress uniform. He had a weapon on his hip. He did not smile. "Welcome aboard," he said. He led them to the ship's meeting room, a small, plain space with a metal table, metal chairs, and nothing else. No windows, no decorations, just bare walls and bright light. The aliens looked around with their many eyes, and Suho could tell they were not used to this kind of simplicity. Good. That was the point. Nari had set up a communication link so that Commander Yuna could participate from Earth. Her voice came through a speaker on the table, clear and steady. "I am Commander Shin Yuna," she said. "I speak for the United Earth Council. Please sit." The aliens lowered themselves into the chairs, which were too small for them, their legs bent at strange angles. Vrel stood behind the 3 elders, watching. "We have come to discuss terms," the eldest of the 3 said. Its voice was a low rumble, like stones grinding together. "The Council recognizes that an error was made. The fleet sent to your world was premature, a decision made in haste. Premature, Yuna repeated. The word hung in the air. You sent 41 warships to destroy a city of 12 million people, and you call it premature. We did not expect— No, Yuna cut in. You did not expect resistance. That is not the same as making an error. An error is dropping a glass. What you did was an act of war. And you did it because our representative refused to answer a question you had no right to ask. The eldest alien's eyes blinked rapidly. The question is tradition. It has been asked of every new species for thousands of years. Then Yuna said, Then your tradition is a threat dressed in polite words, and we do not respond well to threats. The room was quiet. Suho stood against the wall, arms crossed, watching. Nari sat in the corner, recording everything. Yuna continued, Here are our terms. They are not suggestions. They are not the beginning of the negotiation. They are the terms. She paused. The aliens waited. First, Earth is sovereign. No council authority, law, or judgment applies to our world or our people. We are not members of your council. We are not subjects of your empire. We are independent, now and forever. Second, no ship, probe, or signal from any council species may enter our solar system without our permission. Any violation will be treated as an act of war. Third, you will share with us your star charts, your communication protocols, and your basic scientific knowledge. Not as a gift, as payment. You attacked us. This is the price. Fourth, the species and worlds under your council will be informed of what happened here. Not your version, ours. Every civilization in your network will know that you attacked a young world without cause, and that you were defeated. They will know that we came to your home in response, and they will know that we chose to talk instead of fight. The eldest alien was very still. If we share this information, many worlds will lose faith in the council. Some may rebel. That is not our problem, Yuna said. You built your power on fear. You asked every species what they would sacrifice, and you used their answers to control them. That system is between you and the people you rule. We are simply telling the truth. And the fifth term? The alien asked. There is no fifth term, Yuna said. We are not greedy. We want to be left alone. Accept these terms, and we will leave your system in peace. We will even share some of what we know. Our medicines, our art, our music. We are not monsters, but we will not be controlled. The three elders looked at each other. Their shells clicked softly, a private language that the translators could not read. Vrel stepped forward. I met your representative on Earth, Vrel said, looking at Suho. The man called Doyun. He refused to answer my question. At the time, I thought it was weakness. I thought he was afraid. Vrel's 4 eyes blinked slowly. I understand now. He was not afraid. He was giving us a chance. Yes, Suho said. He was. Vrel turned to the elders and spoke in their own language, a series of clicks and low tones that echoed in the small room. Then, the eldest one lowered its head. We accept your terms, it said. Yuna's voice came through the speaker, calm and final. Good. Commander Bay will provide you with a data file containing the full details. You have 30 standard days to begin sharing the information we requested. After that, we will follow up. The meeting was over. It had taken less than an hour. Suho escorted the aliens back to their shuttle. As Vrel was about to step inside, it stopped and turned back. Lieutenant Bay, it said, may I ask a question? Not the question, a different one. Suho looked at the alien. Go ahead. Your species has been in space for less than a century. You are young, small. Your planet is one world among trillions. And yet you came here, to the center of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy, with 6 ships and a scientist. Vrel paused. How? How are you like this? He thought about his father, who fixed boats in the cold rain because his family needed to eat. He thought about his mother, who taught math to children who did not want to learn, year after year, because she believed it mattered. He thought about every human who had ever stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. "We don't know any other way," he said. Vrel looked at him for a long time. Then it turned and walked into the shuttle without another word. As the shuttle pulled away and descended back toward the glowing planet below, Nari came to stand beside Suho at the airlock window. "Do you think they'll keep their word?" she asked. "Some of them will," Suho said. "Some won't, but it doesn't matter." "Why not?" "Because now they know we're here," he said, "and they know what happens when they forget." Within a week, something strange began happening across the galaxy. Star maps, the great navigational databases used by every spacefaring species in the Council, started changing. One by one, the coordinates for a small yellow star on the edge of a spiral arm began to disappear. Species were erasing Earth from their records, not because they were ordered to, because they were afraid. The word spread through trade routes and diplomatic channels, through whispered conversations in alien ports, and coded messages between distant worlds. A new species had appeared. A small, stubborn, impossibly dangerous species from a tiny blue planet. They had destroyed a fleet in seconds. They had appeared at the Council's doorstep without warning, and they had dictated terms to the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. No one wanted to be next. One by one, the stars around Earth went quiet. Ships changed course to avoid the region. Probes were recalled. Listening stations were shut down. A circle of silence grew around the small yellow star, wider and wider, until the space around Earth was the emptiest, most avoided stretch of galaxy anyone had ever known. Commander Shin Yuna watched the reports come in from her office in Seoul. She read each one carefully, made notes, and filed them away. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply did her job, the way she had always done her job, quietly, thoroughly, and without a single wasted word. The silence around Earth grew, and in that silence, humanity began to build. 5 years passed. The galaxy changed in ways that no one, human or alien, had predicted. The Galactic Council, which had ruled with quiet authority for 10,000 years, did not collapse, but it cracked. The truth of what had happened spread slowly at first. Then, all at once, like water finding its way through stone. Species that had lived under the Council's shadow for centuries began to ask questions they had never dared to ask before. If a young species from a single planet could defy the Council and survive, what did that mean for everyone else? Some worlds pushed for independence, some formed new alliances, some simply stopped answering the Council's calls. The old order did not break. It bent, slowly and painfully, into something new. And at the center of it all, quiet and steady, was Earth. Humanity did not try to build an empire. They did not send fleets to conquer distant worlds or demand tribute from weaker species. Instead, they did what they had always done. They traded, they talked, they built, and they argued among themselves. Human merchants appeared at alien trading posts, selling strange things like coffee, music, and something called movies that alien audiences found deeply confusing, but somehow could not stop watching. Human scientists exchanged ideas with researchers from a dozen species. Human doctors shared medical techniques that, in some cases, saved entire populations from diseases the Council had never bothered to cure. It was not a conquest. It was something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that was dangerous enough to be feared and kind enough to be welcomed, all at the same time. But the galaxy never forgot what had happened. And the story, the real story, not the official Council version, became something more than history. It became a legend. On a small trading station at the edge of Council space, a young alien merchant heard the story for the first time. He was sitting in a crowded bar, a place where species from a dozen worlds came to drink, gamble, and exchange rumors. The bar was dark, noisy, and smelled like a dozen different atmospheres mixed together. He was drinking something blue and sweet, and minding his own business, when the old trader at the next table leaned over and said, "You're heading toward the outer spiral arm, yes? Near the empty zone?" The young merchant nodded. "There are good trade routes out there, untouched markets." The old trader shook his head slowly. "There's a reason those routes are untouched. There's a reason that zone is empty." "What reason?" The old trader looked around the bar, as if checking that no one important was listening. Then he leaned closer. "Humans," he whispered. He told it, the way it was told on 100 worlds now. Not as a military report or a political analysis, but as a warning, wrapped in wonder. He told of a species born on a single small planet, orbiting a single ordinary star. A species that spent most of its history fighting itself. Wars over land, over ideas, over things so small that other civilizations could not even understand what the fighting was about. A species that should have destroyed itself 1,000 times over, but never did. Because every time they were knocked down, they got back up. Every time they faced something that should have ended them, disease, famine, ice, fire, they adapted, they changed, they survived. He told of how the council had found them and had sent an ambassador to ask the question, the same question every species was asked. What are you willing to sacrifice to survive? And how the human representative, a quiet man with gray hair and calm eyes, had simply smiled and refused to answer. Not because he didn't know the answer, but because he understood that the question itself was a cage, and he refused to step inside it. He told of how the council, insulted and confused, had sent a fleet to teach the humans a lesson. 41 ships, sent to destroy their largest city, and how the humans had revealed a defense system that no one knew existed, thousands of hidden weapons in orbit, and had destroyed the entire fleet in 11 seconds. Not minutes, not hours, 11 seconds. He told of how, instead of hiding behind their defenses, the humans had done something no species in the history of the galaxy had ever done. They had jumped across the galaxy and appeared above the Council's own homeworld with 6 ships. 6 small, crude, impossibly brave ships, and a scientist who had hijacked the entire Council communication network to deliver a message that was still quoted on trading floors and in military academies across the stars. Nothing, the old trader said, his eyes wide. She told them they sacrifice nothing, that they adapt, that they fight, and that they come for anyone who threatens them. The young merchant sat very still. And the council surrendered? They accepted terms, the old trader corrected. The human commander, a woman they say, with a voice like cold iron, told them exactly what would happen and exactly what she expected, and she did not ask for their opinion. She told them, and they agreed, because for the first time in 10,000 years, the council was afraid. The young merchant looked down at his drink. That was 5 years ago, he said. Have the humans done anything since then? The old trader laughed, a low, rough sound. That's the strangest part. They went home. They went back to their little planet and their little star, and they just lived. They opened trade routes. They shared their medicine and their art. They sent teachers and farmers and musicians to worlds that asked for help. They argued among themselves about everything under their sun. They are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever known, and they spend most of their time making something called dramas about love and sadness. He shook his head in amazement. I traded with one of them once, a woman from a place called Busan. She sold me a container of dried fish and something called gochujang. She was the friendliest person I've ever met, laughed at everything, gave me extra at no charge. He paused, and when I asked her about the war, about the fleet, about the council, she just shrugged and said, We don't like to talk about that. We just wanted to be left alone." The young merchant was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, "What happened to the people from the story, the ones who were there?" The old trader settled back in his chair. "The diplomat Do-hyun, he retired, lives in Busan now, by the ocean. They say he spends his days fishing and reading. He never gave a single interview, never wrote a book. When reporters come to his door, he makes them tea, talks about the weather, and sends them away with nothing. The captain, Jia, she still runs their defense system, promoted several times, but refused a desk job. She sits in the same underground room where she fought the battle, watching the sky, keeping the grid ready. They say she has not taken a vacation in 5 years. The soldier, Suho, he left the military, went back to Incheon, his hometown, and opened a school for children. He teaches them history and science. He never talks about what he did. But his students say that sometimes, on clear nights, he takes them outside and shows them the stars, and tells them, all of that is yours, if you're brave enough. The scientist, Nari, she became the head of Earth's new space exploration program. She's the one building the ships that go farther than anyone has gone before. She still talks too fast. She still wears the same round glasses. And she still, according to everyone who works with her, refuses to run. And the commander, Yuna, she's still in charge, still in Seoul, still watching. They say she smiles now, sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. The young merchant sat in silence, turning his blue drink slowly in his hands. "There's a saying now," the old trader said, leaning in one last time. "You hear it everywhere, in markets, in ports, in the quiet corners of council halls where the old ones whisper. It goes like this." He lowered his voice. "Never ask humans what they fear. They'll show you what you should." The young merchant looked at the old trader. Then he looked at the star chart on the table between them, a chart with a large empty circle in the outer spiral arm, unmarked, unnamed, with a single small note in the margin that simply read, "Do not enter." He picked up his drink, finished it in one long swallow, and changed his trade route. Far away on a small blue planet orbiting a single ordinary star, the sun was setting over Busan. The sky was orange and pink, and the ocean was calm. Seagulls circled above the harbor, calling to each other in sharp, bright voices. Han Do-hyun sat on a wooden bench near the water, a fishing rod in his hands, a thermos of warm tea beside him. He was 51 years old now. His hair was fully gray. His face was lined, but his eyes were the same, quiet, calm, and deep, like still water that hit a strong current. He had not caught a single fish all day. He was not there for the fish. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it. A message from Yuna. All clear. Same as yesterday. Same as always. He smiled, that same small, polite, almost sad smile, and put the phone away. Behind him, the city hummed with life. Cars moved through streets. Children laughed in a park. A street vendor sold tteokbokki to a line of hungry customers. Somewhere a radio played a song that Do-hyun almost recognized. It was an ordinary evening on an ordinary planet. And that, Do-hyun thought, was exactly the point. They had fought, not for power, not for glory, not for a seat on some galactic council. They had fought for this, for the right to have ordinary evenings, for the right to fish badly and drink warm tea and watch the sunset over an ocean that did not know or care about the politics of distant stars. The hook sank slowly, disappearing into the blue. Somewhere far above, beyond the sky, beyond the atmosphere, beyond the quiet ring of satellites that watched and waited, the galaxy was still telling stories about his planet, about his people, about a species that had been asked the wrong question and had answered it in a way that changed everything. But Do-hyun did not think about that. He thought about the sea, and the light, and the sound of gulls, and the simple fact that he was alive, and the world was at peace. and that was enough. It had always been enough. The line tugged. He pulled it in. Empty again. He laughed softly and cast it once more. The sun went down, the stars came out, the same stars that an entire galaxy was afraid of. And on the small blue planet beneath them, the people of Earth went on living, as they always had, stubborn and kind and impossible and free. The ship came down on a Tuesday. It did not crash. It did not burn through the sky like a falling star. It simply appeared, large, dark, and perfectly still, above the city of Geneva. The clouds parted around it, as if they were afraid to touch it. The ship was shaped like a curved blade, black as deep water, and it made no sound at all. That was the part that scared people the most. Something that big should make noise. But it just floated there, silent, like it had always been part of the sky. Within minutes, the world changed. Every news channel on the planet showed the same image. Every phone buzzed with the same alert. People stood on streets and rooftops, looking up with wide eyes. Some prayed, some screamed, some just stood very still and waited. The militaries of the world activated everything they had. Fighter jets circled the ship at a distance. Satellites adjusted their cameras. Underground command centers lit up with red lights and fast voices. But no one fired. No one dared. The ship had not attacked. It had not spoken. It simply waited. Han Do-hyun was eating lunch when the call came. He was sitting in a small office inside the United Earth Council building in Seoul, eating rice and soup from a metal tray. He was 46 years old, not very tall, with short gray hair and a calm face that rarely showed emotion. He had been a diplomat for 20 years. He had handled border disputes, trade agreements, and 2 small wars. But nothing like this. His phone rang. He looked at the screen. It was the Secretary General. "They want to talk," the Secretary General said. His voice was tight, like a wire pulled too far. They sent a signal, audio only, in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and Arabic, all at the same time. "They're asking for a single representative." Do-hyun put down his spoon. "Why me?" "Because you don't panic," the Secretary General said. "And right now, that's the most important skill on Earth." Do-hyun wiped his mouth, stood up, and straightened his tie. He did not rush. He never rushed. That was his way. When everyone around him moved fast, he moved slow. When voices got loud, his got quieter. People mistook this for weakness. They were always wrong. He flew to Geneva that night on a military transport. The whole way, he read the file they gave him. It was thin. Almost nothing was known. The ship had not responded to any further communication after the first signal. It simply repeated one phrase, over and over, in every language on Earth. "Send one. We will speak." When he arrived, the area around the ship had been cleared for 5 kilometers in every direction. Soldiers stood behind barriers. Scientists watched from mobile labs. The air smelled like rain and metal. A beam of pale blue light came down from the bottom of the ship. It touched the ground gently, like a finger pressing into sand. Do-hyun looked at it for a long moment. Then he walked into it. He felt nothing. No heat, no cold, no pressure. 1 second he was standing on wet grass. The next, he was inside. The inside of the ship was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high he could not see it. The walls were smooth and dark, covered in tiny lights that moved like living things. The air was warm and tasted faintly sweet, like fruit left in the sun too long. There was no furniture, no decoration, just a vast open space, and them. There were 7 of them. They were tall, at least 3 meters, with long, thin bodies covered in something that looked like dark shell. Their heads were narrow and flat, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Their mouths were small, and did not move when they spoke. Instead, a voice came from somewhere in the air around them, smooth and clear, as if the ship itself was translating their thoughts. The one in the center stepped forward. Its 4 eyes blinked, 2 at a time. "I am Vrel," the voice said. "Ambassador of the Galactic Council, 17th Circle. You are the voice of your world?" Do-Yun looked up at the creature. He did not step back. He did not show fear. He simply folded his hands behind his back, the way he always did when he was thinking, and said, "I am." Vrel tilted its head. "Your world is small. Your species is young. You have only recently left your own atmosphere. And yet," it paused, and all 4 of its eyes focused on Do-Yun at once. "You were not easy to find. You hide well, for such a young race." Do-Yun said nothing. He waited. Vrel continued. "The Council has watched your kind for some time. You are unusual. Most species, when they reach your level of development, are either peaceful or destroyed. You are neither. You fight among yourselves constantly, and yet you do not fall. This is rare. Interesting." Do-Yun said, though he was not sure it was a compliment. Vrel's eyes shifted. "We have come to evaluate you, to determine whether your species should be welcomed into the larger community of civilizations, or whether you should be contained. The Council does not tolerate threats." Do-Yun nodded slowly. "And how do you evaluate us?" "With a question," Vrel said. Its voice dropped lower. The lights on the walls dimmed slightly, as if the ship itself was leaning in to listen. "One question. Every species is asked the same question. Your answer will determine your future." The other 6 aliens shifted behind Vrel. Their shells made a soft clicking sound. The air felt heavier. "Ask," Do-Yun said. Vrel's 4 eyes locked onto his. The silence stretched for a long, terrible moment. "What is your species willing to sacrifice to survive?" Do-Yun could feel it pressing against him. Not physically, but somewhere deeper. He understood what they were really asking. They wanted to know if humans would give up their weapons, their freedom, their pride. They wanted to know if humans could be controlled. He had read the file. He had studied what little they knew. He had thought about this question on the long flight to Geneva, turning it over in his mind, like a stone in his hand. And he had come to one simple conclusion. The question was a trap. If he said everything, they would see humans as desperate and weak, easy to dominate. If he said nothing, they would see humans as dangerous and stubborn, a threat to be removed. Every possible answer gave them power. The question was not designed to learn about humanity. It was designed to sort humanity into a box. So Do-Yun did something none of them expected. He smiled, a small, polite, almost sad smile, and he said nothing. The silence that followed was unlike anything the aliens had experienced. Vrel stared at him. The other 6 shifted again, their clicks growing faster. The lights on the walls flickered. "You do not answer?" Vrel asked. "I heard your question," Do-Yun said calmly. "I simply choose not to answer it." Vrel's body went very still. Every species answers. It is required. "Then I am sorry to disappoint you," Do-Yun said. He unfolded his hands and let them rest at his sides. "But I have learned in my years as a diplomat that the most dangerous thing you can do is answer the wrong question honestly." He looked around the vast room, at the 7 towering aliens, at the dark walls and moving lights. Then he looked back at Vrel. "You asked what we would sacrifice," he said quietly. "But that is not the right question. The right question is what we are willing to fight for. And I think, Ambassador, that you are not ready for that answer." He turned around and walked back toward the beam of light. No one stopped him. No one spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship and the fading click of alien shells. When Do-hyun stepped back onto the wet grass outside, the world was still watching. Cameras flashed. Soldiers stood at attention. The Secretary General was waiting by a black car, his face pale. "What happened?" he asked. Do-hyun looked up at the dark ship one last time. Then he straightened his tie and said, "They asked the wrong question." That night, the ship rose silently into the sky and disappeared among the stars. But it was not gone. And inside the great halls of the Galactic Council, far across the galaxy, the debate had already begun. What kind of species refuses to answer? They would find out soon enough.